Welcome back to the MindGoals Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Siobhan Higgins, sport and performance psychology consultant, professional soccer player, yoga instructor, and soccer coach. The MindGoals Podcast is a space that I hold for myself, athletes, and other athletic personnel so that we can converse and discuss how we acquired the mindset that we have today. All with the goal in mind that any listeners or viewers can overall improve their mindset as well. So today I'm really excited to invite back another guest, somebody who ran every single street in the 610 loop of Houston, Texas. Welcome back, Jon Capo.
It's a pleasure to be back, Siobhan. Your intro has gotten longer. It's been great to see you doing so well over the last few months. It's easy to remember when our last episode was because it was St. Patrick's Day. We were both wearing green, right?
We're actually coincidentally both wearing blue, but...
Yeah. We'll coordinate the next one too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a big and productive 9 months for the both of us since we last talked.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into everything you've been doing for the past, is it 9 months? I would say like 8, 9, same thing. But Jon was one of the first people I had on the podcast, and we discussed his long distance running, kind of the mindset behind how he prepped for that, the motivation behind it. And since then, guys, Jon has been to a couple different countries, or did you only go to one?
Oh, I've been in quite a few different countries.
So we're gonna do a catch up session basically. So Jon, for everybody listening, if you didn't catch the first episode, you can
watch it.
Yeah, definitely watch it.
If you have an extra hour.
Yeah, it's super interesting to learn that like all the places that Jon has run, the motivation behind it, like I said, and what he's doing now, and then to come back and watch this one because we can see the progress and everything he's done since then. So first question is, where have you been?
So since I saw you in March, I spent the month of May in Africa, North Africa, West Africa. And after that, I came back here, and in, I guess, July, I put in my 2 weeks notice with work, telling them I wanted to travel full time.
Wow.
And I left to Central Asia, a little bit of the Middle East, and a long time in Southeast Asia. So the stands, and of course, 2 months in India to finish everything off. I'm back here for the holidays, which is a nice refresher. Looking forward to getting to spend some time with family and friends. And then I'll be getting back on the road in a few weeks from now.
Wow. That you conquered quite a lot. And then in this past year, I have obviously a lot of questions, but how did you first plan where you were going to go in order? And then you mentioned, I mean, I know this, but you mentioned that you put your 2 weeks in and you were already traveling when you were running before. So what made you want to fully decide to just kind of put work on pause and dedicate all your time to running and traveling?
So I'll answer that one first. I think everyone to some extent has this vision of, I want to quit my job and take a gap year to travel or something like that. People have their own different flavors of how it would get done. And I'm someone who could spend all day on Google Maps. I love to learn more about the world and the different places around it, and all the travel vloggers on YouTube. That's what's floating around on my TV when I'm killing time around home. So it's really the first idea I had was to travel the world and do a lot of the great hikes. You know, we talk about the Appalachian Trail or the Pacific Crest Trail or things like that. There are multi-day hiking trips you can do all over the world. And I love a good list, love a good spreadsheet. So I could still dig it up. I had a spreadsheet from the first few years after I finished college of the great hikes of the world that I wanted to do. And I had in my head for a while that I'm going to go do this at some stage of my youth. And for a while, I didn't think that point was very feasible, especially since I bought a house here in Houston around 6 years ago. I thought that that's a little bit much to have to bear from a debt perspective while you have no income coming in. But I've had a lot of luck renting my rooms out to roommates. Very thankful for that. And I thought that if there was ever a window to do something like this in my life while I'm young and while I'm fit, it's right now. It's now or never.
Very cool. So, wow. First of all, that's awesome that you are able to do that. I think that it's kind of funny that we call Jon's house Casa Capo because it's not a hotel, but it's definitely like Jon. If you know him, he's just a nice person, genuine. He's the type of person that's there for you, like if you need anything. Like it's the guy to call, and like you would house people if they needed it, and so it's a good karma coming back to you is what I'm thinking.
I like to think so.
Yeah.
I like to think so, and I'm very grateful to have people that will water the plants, check the mail, make sure I'm not getting fined or anything like that, right?
Yes. And then I guess with the Houston weather, you never know what's going to happen over here if we have a freeze or if a flood or something, because there have been some of those, but you have people vacating your house, so.
Yeah.
People are taking, I don't know, people taking care of you.
Right?
Yeah. So back to your spreadsheet and how you had this vision for quite some time. So that's pretty neat to learn because some people just have like an impulsive thought and they're like, oh, let's do this, let's plan it next year. But it seems like you've been leading towards this for quite some time. And so you've finally been able to do it, like you're doing it right now. Mm-hmm. So in terms of your travels in the past 9 months, let's say, you said you started in Africa, and how did you decide on that?
I was doing this kind of silly idea of buying round trip flights from Europe to America, since I had bought one-way at some point, and they're strangely always fairly cheap to come from Europe to the Americas. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of allowed me to have a trip to be excited for in the future, even though it was long away from actually being planned out. And yeah, I guess I felt like I had been to a good chunk of Europe in the last few years, and it's a quick flight from Milan to Tunisia, and it was a completely different experience from anything that I'd done before. And to be there while I was working was a bit of a challenge. Sometimes the internet could be a little bit less reliable, and that was one point that made me sort of consider that if I wanted to go to some of the further reaching corners of the world, obviously working in the middle of the night, working US hours from the local time would be very difficult, but you never know how the internet is going to be in some of these places, despite as much research as you could possibly do. Yeah. And I had, at that point, I had a few other friends that I knew, mostly from my university, Rice, that had done gap years, similar sorts of things. And it certainly gives you more confidence when you see somebody. My friend Felipe took a motorbike from Alaska to the tip of Argentina, sort of all the way around the Americas over a year and a half. And we both had talked before he did that about our desire to do something like this, and to see someone else really pushing and chasing it gave me more confidence that I could do something like that and enter the challenge of the self-supported marathons that I decided to add to it.
Yeah. So that's very great. And it's inspirational and super, just to have friends on tap that have experienced similar travels is so nice. So you can lean on them, because I was going to ask, how do you just go if you don't know the country, the cities, and even anyone there? Because my first thought when I'm traveling is, do I know somebody in this area? Can you crash at their place? Like, can they give you some insight? But did you know anyone whenever you went?
Not so much. And it's you're taking a big plunge when you decide to do something like that. And solo travel in the United States is much different than solo travel in a place where you don't know the language.
Yes, exactly.
But it's the 21st century, Siobhan. It's pretty darn easy to get around on Google with the Translate app. And even if you don't have live train time, subway time tracking on some of these apps, you can usually find a blog or a vlog of some traveler who has been there in the last 5-10 years that knows what the infrastructure around a place is like. And with just a little bit of research and a smile, right? Sometimes you've got to talk to a local in the foreign language and show your phone to them and have a little Google Translate conversation. A lot of my hotel owners in the stands didn't speak any English, but you just do Russian on Google Translate, or you pick up a few words here and there, and you can get your points across.
Oh gosh.
Not so difficultly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a word.
Yeah, I felt that before because I've been in Hungary and in like Portugal, and that's definitely like Hungarian doesn't translate at all. Like saying hi is you can't look at a word and say, oh, that's what that means. No, there's no sort of translation. Like Italian, Spanish, a little bit like crossover with English, but no, when you're in other parts of the world, it's very difficult. So kudos to you, and thanks. That's a good thing for our phones. I mean, I'm personally not in love with phones and always looking at screens and whatnot, but it's definitely very helpful, especially with the blogs too. That's a good point, because I didn't think to, I guess, lean on other people like yourself that have been there. So you're getting advice from people you don't know.
Absolutely, yeah. I had one experience where I went on a 7-hour sort of bus ride to a touristy, hiker-friendly area. And on the way out, I got charged a lot more than I probably should have. So I read about it online. And on the way back, I saw a blog where someone said, download this app. It's only in Russian, but it's pretty intuitive. You can get the 7-hour bus ticket for only $6, where I paid like $15 or something like that. Someone's experiences in the past, and if anyone's watching this and is interested in going to that part of the world, like, reach out to me. I'm happy to share my perspective on how some of that stuff went for me.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think of similar thing, trying to buy a train ticket in Hungary. Like if you go there in person, it's cheaper than if you were trying to download the app, something of that sort, but you wouldn't know unless the locals told you. Yeah,
then it comes to a matter of how much security you want to have. If you want to know that when you get to the station, you will be going where you're going, is that worth an extra $3, $5? I don't know.
Safety. I would pay a lot for safety and security.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I wanted to rewind, because you mentioned this, and I do know, but viewers might not, that right now you are running self-supported marathons, correct?
That's right.
So how did that come about?
Do you know the story of my first self-supported marathon? It was around when I first met you.
Oh, really? No, I don't know. It's a long time.
I think you're gonna love it. I know you're very competitive.
Okay, here we go.
So I'd done one marathon. This was a Chevron Houston Marathon, 7 years ago now. And in 2021, I was in really good shape. I was putting down my PRs, my best times on all of the various distances. And so I wanted to do a marathon. I didn't want to do the Houston Marathon again, but I wanted to do a marathon to see how good I could get my time. And I had a love interest who was a runner at the time, and she was fast. She was really fast. And I heard her tell me that she was signing up for a marathon in December. And I at first said, maybe I can join you. And then she sort of said, no, I have a friend going with me. It's all good. And then we kind of stopped talking before that. Mm-hmm. But we have Strava, the social media for runners. It's, for anyone who doesn't know, it's where you post your activities, various sports. People can like or comment or things like that. I knew I was going to see her run this marathon on the app, and I knew it was going to be a faster time than I ever had in the marathon. So I said, I'm going to just run a marathon that day too.
Without training?
By myself. I mean, I'd been training.
Okay,
I was at a point where I was doing 50 miles a week.
Okay,
right?
okay. So you'd been training.
I was in potentially the fastest running shape of my life, at least. I knew I could run a marathon really well.
But you ran the marathon, but not in the Houston Marathon. Is that correct?
Exactly.
You just ran.
I just ran around Houston. Yeah.
On the same day.
I left. I left a bottle of Powerade hiding somewhere. Yeah, maybe the best way to beat your times is out of spite. Who knows? Mm-hmm. So that was the first one, and at that point, another pivotal moment, I guess, would be when I was running all the streets in 610. Mm-hmm. On my 30th birthday, I did 30 miles. And cool. I went up and down downtown, kind of all the north-souths, most of the east-west, managed to finish running most of the streets of downtown. It was so great. Beautiful day. It was my birthday, and I had people coming over after, and that was a really special experience. And then I think like maybe it must have just been 2 days later, I felt great, and I went on a long run, and I
2 days later?
Yeah, and I was pretty fast, and I thought, man, this is something that I can kind of uniquely do, is recover from a marathon pretty quickly and be able to bounce back and do another one in the next few weeks or something like that. And as at that point, I was reaching the end of the Every Street in 610 project that I was working on. I think I finished 2 months later, and I wanted to start brainstorming the next big idea. And if you listen back to the first podcast I had with you, I talked about a lifelong goal of 100 marathons and to make 25 videos where I'm recording myself running a marathon and just having a sort of keepsake or memory like that associated with it. And I had sort of decided early this year, I guess, around when we talked, after we talked, I know we went out to dinner and I kind of pitched the idea, I think, to you after the podcast recording last time. And yeah, at first I thought I could do 25 marathons in 25 countries in a year. And
now what do
that's
you think?
A little bit aggressive, right? I mean, more than anything else, quality over quantity, right? Some countries you can visit 4 or 5 days even and see most of the main sites, right? But India, for example, I spent almost 2 months in India, and there's still so much more that I could have seen there. You could spend a lifetime exploring India. And so I thought, I don't want to just do speed run all of these countries, like max 2 weeks in one country. I could still do 25 marathons in a year, but I don't want to be so adamant about how many countries I can visit.
You want to
savor
savor your time, like kind of slow it down, really soak it all in, because you are traveling to see the world. And so, if you're flying by with your 620 mile pace, then you're not... Don't even. You're like, oh, it's actually less than that.
Nah.
But well, so okay, that makes more sense, because off air I was asking Jon, I've seen people jump into his marathons, or like whenever he's in somebody else's state or city, he'll say, if you're here, come and join. And I can run now. So since I've seen you last, I've had my surgery, cleared to run. And so I'm going to hop in. Now I've said it on camera, I have to do it. I'll hop in for a couple miles whenever you do yours next week. But I guess for people to know, what does that look like whenever you're running? Well, you say, I'll be here at this time, or meet me here. And how do people join in with you?
So I haven't had that many people join in with me. I guess I mentioned
a decent amount.
A couple. Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the places I've been to, I haven't known anyone. It's been places that I've dreamed of going for a long time, but don't necessarily know anyone. And if no one else, you can always count on getting to know your hotel operator a little bit. If you're willing to be vulnerable with someone like that, then that's a great way to have a bit of a authentic local experience. And I could certainly get more into the challenges with solitude and things like that over a long period. But yeah, I've to answer your question, I've done a lot of just posting about if I'm going to be in a city where I know a bunch of people, New York, of course, here in Houston, if I were in maybe Austin or California, right? Like now that I've kind of had this idea, this product that I've put together, it's got a bit more legitimacy, and it's not just telling my friends, let's go for a run, or we're creating a run club, right? It's more about you can be a part of my journey too, and it will help us both to further our physical journey, our running journey, right?
Yeah. And us supporting you helps you support blank.
An organization called Free to Run. Yeah, I mentioned them briefly in the last episode.
Yes.
But I had the Marathons Around the World idea before I had the organization that I wanted to support. One thing I realized when running Every Street in 610 was that I messed up by not adding a charity component to it. I think I could have gotten a good amount of money for some organization in the Houston area. And that was one of my key priorities for myself before starting marathons around the world.
Yeah, I do remember you mentioning that.
Yeah, and I had the organization in mind actually last year.
Yeah.
So I think I applied to their ambassador program in maybe February. It was before we talked last time.
Yeah.
And I had the idea, I want to run marathons while traveling the world.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially as part of the ambassador program, I'm on the hook to raise $1,000, but they provide me with, they have some workshops. You have meet the people in the organization. So for anyone who didn't listen to the last episode, it's a group that organizes sports and leadership programs for women in conflict zones, specifically Kurdistan in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Palestine. And when I learned about that organization last year, January, February, it just really connected with me. It's has to do with running and fitness, of course. It's on the scope of the entire world, right? It's not just solving this problem in one country. And I'm going to try to be traveling the world with it, right? And I'll never know what it's like to go running as a woman, right? Especially a woman in a Muslim country where it's just sort of not socially accepted.
Yeah.
And I can only hope that by raising awareness for something like this, I'm making other people realize that this is not just your God-given right. In many places around the world, exercising freely on the street, especially even in the middle of the night, that's not something you could count on having.
Right. Yeah. And so that's beautiful. I like the way that you described it because you're making a direct impact, and not only in one area, but globally. And honestly, this is probably a great time to promote your page or where people can help you, because it is the season of giving. Whenever this show airs, it'll be the day after Christmas. And so if you are looking to donate to anybody or contribute to a bigger cause, Jon is hosting like a fundraiser. Yeah, you have a fundraiser right now.
That's exactly right. So as part of my ambassadorship with the Free to Run organization, I've got a page on justgiving.com. We can link it in the show notes. I've got my website, runwithjon.com, where I've been kind of posting updates. Of course, Instagram, Strava, if you're on it, are places to follow along with me. But I'm just so humbled and grateful for all of the donations that I've been able to secure so far. I've had a lot of people from all different walks of my life see what I'm doing and be really excited about it, and offering to donate some money. And I had set the goal of $5,000. Mm-hmm. Right now I'm only about $500 away. And as I said, I've been traveling for 5 months now, right? Yeah. I'm planning to spend around a full year. Okay. And hopefully, again, knock on wood, I realized that I could have an injury tomorrow and be out of commission for 2 months, right? So I'm glad that I'm ahead of the pace I need to be at to finish 20. I'm saying 20 right now for those listening. I'm probably going to update that goal to 25 since I'm well on track to get 20 in a year. I won't certainly stop if I do that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, maybe I'll be raising the fundraising goal to $10,000. And at that point, I would be very, very happy to have any incremental dollar at that point. Very
cool. Yeah, very neat. And so we will link that, and we can make a post about it as well, and just bring more awareness to it and drive the focus to helping you and your journey and helping other people around the world as well.
Absolutely.
So thank you. What you're doing is a very beautiful thing. It's very nice to see someone use their talent and passion for the better of other people. That was said so poorly. To enhance the lives of others. Yeah. That's ultimately the goal with anything that anyone does. And so love to see someone using their talents for the better.
Yeah. And I think I have to mention that I did get to meet the Free to Run team in person. So shout out Batul and everyone there if they're listening. I went to Erbil in Iraqi Kurdistan. Wow. And I spent about a week there. I had a guide kind of take me outside the city to some of the natural areas, some of the smaller towns. But in the capital city, that's probably the largest chapter of where the Free to Run group operates. And I was coordinating with the team over there, and they basically joined me for the last 10 kilometers of the marathon that I ran there.
That's so sweet. That's such a nice moment.
And many of them knew quite a bit of English to the point where we were able to have a good conversation. I learned some Arabic. I learned a tiny bit of Kurdish, not certainly enough to hold a conversation. But I think the funniest part was when they asked what my favorite Taylor Swift song was.
Wow, she's so international. What is it? What's your answer?
I had to say Shake It Off. I mean, that song takes me right back to college. We had a lot of shaking it off to shake it off.
I'm a big, I'm proud to say this. I was in her number 1% of listeners.
Number one?
Yeah, she was my top. She came out with a new album this year. It was great.
Of course, yeah.
Shout out to the Swizzies. But that's so funny. That's sweet. I was going to ask, because I did see a picture or video of you running with them. Where did you mention that was when you ran with them?
That was in Erbil in Iraqi Kurdistan. And I sort of toured a little bit around the city. In any city, it's fun to find a route to put together for one of these self-supported marathons, because sometimes you can go out into a forest or a mountain natural area. Sometimes you're just going from park to park, monument to monument, just interesting points of interest that you may be able to find. And the women in that group mostly go running in the largest park in Erbil. Okay. They sort of their training sessions are usually in this park, Sami Abdul Rahman Park. Really great place. I went there 3 or 4 times to run while I was there for the week.
Is it a big park?
Yeah. Very large, very large.
Very nice. So it has a trail, I presume.
Yeah. Jogging track, trail, all that kind of stuff.
Cool. Nice.
It gets hot there. I was there end of September, and it was into the 90s still. But when you start, it's a desert, so when you start in the morning, it's much more bearable.
Okay, nice. So you figured that out as you go along.
Yeah. I had to adjust some plans around the weather, and a little bit of rain in a few of them, but never. And I wasn't gonna do it on the day. Fortunately, I've got enough time where I can shift the marathon date a date or two.
Okay, yeah.
So that hopefully I can avoid the worst of the weather for things like that.
Fair play. And there's so many different things that you have to factor into your runs. And just to confirm, you run consecutive marathon, right? Like, I guess there's some pauses. I don't know.
There can be some pauses.
Like not day pauses, right?
No, yeah. Yeah, I can kind of walk you through what a day in the life of Jon running a marathon self-supported around the world is, because I think a lot of people know with a marathon training plan, you usually work your mileage up for 12 weeks or so leading up to it, and then you do the taper. You do the 2 weeks where you slow down your training a little bit just in order to get your muscle fibers all ready to go and do your fastest race. When you're doing a marathon every 2 weeks, it's a lot different from that. There are a lot of other factors to consider. So I've made a joke that the carb loading is kind of just constant. Okay. But day or two leading up, maybe pump it even a bit higher with the rice or get some pizza. Make sure I don't eat anything too spicy or adventurous the day before a marathon.
And pause. We're going to dive into, I saw this, and I'll ask for listeners and viewers, but since we're speaking about food and spices, did you at any point get food poisoning?
Yes.
During your, I know the answer to this.
The secret is out. Yes.
The secret.
There's a sort of running joke that anyone who visits to India will get food poisoning. And I'm vegetarian. I was drinking only bottled water, but it still happened. And
how many times did it happen?
It was weird because I had it, and then it started to get better, and then it just got way worse 3 days later, and then. So probably a week total. I was more or less out of commission.
No running for a week. I bet you did run.
No.
You couldn't. Yeah.
I mean, I'll log a lot of my walks. If I'm going to walk a mile, I'll log it just for the sake of wanting to know how much distance I've done total throughout the year, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was still walking. I never had a car anywhere that I went, pretty much. So you got to go downstairs to get food and stuff like that. But yeah, I went to the doctor, got some antibiotics, electrolyte drinks, and I bounced back pretty quickly after that.
Good.
Funniest part about that one, though, was I really wanted to do a marathon on my birthday this year, like how I did 30 years last year. And so I guess I started to recover from the food poisoning 6 days before my birthday. And I just said, all right, I'm going to drink a lot of water. And I actually ate an entire jar of peanut butter because I don't look at me. I don't got enough weight to lose. Like,
you probably
I needed to carb load extra for that one.
Yeah. And you did it, right?
I got it done. Yeah, I got it done.
Wow.
Yeah,
Congrats.
Yeah.
And I already told you happy birthday, but happy belated again.
And same to you.
Thank you. Are you a Sagittarius?
No, I'm Scorpio.
Just in the cuff. Okay.
That's right. Right.
Okay, so sorry, I did cut you off for you to share that story.
Marathon train, day in the life. So
carb loading,
carb loading. Obviously, try to get a good night's sleep. That should go without saying for anyone who wants to do. But
a good night's sleep for you, what is that? Like how many hours?
I'd love to get 8 hours. I mean, I'll get 9 hours if I have time.
Yeah.
So let's see. I'll wake up. Most of the time, it's the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's typically the bet before the sun gets. I need sunscreen, right? If I'm going too late into the day. Sometimes it's a long one where I'm going up a mountain and kind of hiking part of a marathon. So those aren't going to be 3-4 hour marathons. But I've got a bag that I'll put on that can hold a hydration bladder.
Okay.
So I do 2 liter water, and sometimes that's not enough, especially when it's hot or it's a longer time horizon. So maybe there's an asterisk on self-supported if I'm buying a water from a bodega in the middle of a run, but you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be drinking from a water fountain here. You got the water. I get the electrolytes. I'll do capsule form electrolytes because you can't always find Gatorade or things like that in foreign countries. And the you put a mix into your hydration bladder, it's gonna get disgusting.
Oh,
it's
really?
It's hard to get that out.
So you just put like a Gatorade or some drink that's already has electrolytes?
No. I'll drink only water, but then capsule take pills of electrolytes. Okay, gotcha. So that's more important for anyone who hasn't run a marathon before. That's very important for like the last half of your marathon once you've kind of already depleted a lot of your energy levels and the salts from your body. Mm-hmm. So I'll make sure that I've got at least 3 or 4 capsules for the back half of a marathon. Of course, they say you need to eat while you run a marathon. You need some amount of nutrition, and you can't always find the goos or the gels that you might find around the States in different countries you go. Yeah. So my natural solution is dates.
Okay, yummy.
They're sugary. You can digest them quickly. Sometimes, a lot of the time even, I'll take the pit out and put either peanuts or chocolate inside of the date. So it's like a little flavor bomb.
Yeah.
Maybe not for everyone. It's pretty high fiber. So vegetarian, I can handle it, but you don't want to have to stop too much during the. I bring toilet paper just in case.
I was going to ask how that works if you don't mind like touching on it. How does it work if you need to go to the bathroom? Pull over whatever tree.
Hope I can find one. Yeah, and hope that it's only number 1. So I bring the dates, the toilet paper, some cash. Just in case, sometimes you need to enter a park that costs money. Sometimes you need to buy a water bottle, right? And that's really it. Sunscreen, maybe.
A lot of preparation though going into this.
Yeah, you got to make sure the bag's ready to go. If you want to be able to continue for that full amount of time. Mm-hmm. Let me see if I always make sure that I have something to look forward to afterwards.
Okay, yeah.
It could just be a chocolate bar, it could be a beer, it could be an ice cream.
I feel that.
Mango juice, any sweet treat to have waiting for. Yeah, a reward. Yeah. Something because I'll usually be horizontal most of the rest of the day after a marathon. Like never any other big commitment One day I took a
Overcommitted.
3-hour bus ride after running a marathon that day, and I realized that was a mistake.
I would have been all stiff and like squeaky.
Yeah, I was like getting up in the middle of the ride
to
and
walk,
stretching my legs and stuff. Oh yeah.
Oh man. Wait, I was going to ask in terms of laying horizontally. Do you have those boots by any chance? Those recovery boots? Do you believe in them?
I've done them before. I've certainly not taken them with me around the world.
Right.
But
I'm wondering like if there's a practical or what about ice baths? Like, is that something that you find to be helpful for you? No.
I did for my first marathon and for when I ran across the Grand Canyon 3 years ago almost. Other than that, not to say a marathon isn't challenging for me. I still, a lot of the time, am not positive that I'm going to finish until I see mile 26 pop up on my phone.
That's nice.
But I can usually bounce back pretty quick from a marathon, and
So you don't,
at least
you don't
I'll
actually
try
have that much
to.
recovery. Is that what you're saying? And it's okay.
The
You're
stretching
different.
is serious. The stretching is serious. The yoga is serious. That's hard to stay diligent with when you're traveling around a lot, and a lot of the times yoga is YouTube and you're on a bed, so I'm like shaking when I'm doing Warrior 2 just because the bed is a little shaky, right?
It's like all the space you have because of the.
I mean, I usually go pretty low budget on the accommodations since
Yeah.
I'm going to be gone for a long time, and it's just me. I don't need to treat myself to the Four Seasons if I'm
Yes,
just
of course.
traveling
And you're there
by
and
myself.
gone.
Yeah, just there and gone for a bit. So if you're lucky, you'll be at a place with a yoga mat, or you can seek it out. Like I did seek it out, especially some places in India. It's the capital
Yeah,
of yoga,
I was
right?
about to
Like
say.
any just about every city and big city in India, you can find yoga classes to go do. So those were interesting experiences
gosh.
whenever I got to do those.
Can I ask you about it since I'm a yogi myself?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did you take like actual classes in person?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
How
A
many?
few. Let's see. I guess it was just three.
Okay.
Three yoga classes in India.
Did you? Yeah. How was that? Because I'm gonna assume it wasn't in English.
Oh yeah, it's in English.
It's in English?
Yeah. It was in fairly
modernized?
touristy areas,
Okay.
right? And India is an interesting place because there are so many different languages spoken around India.
Yeah.
Hindi is the state language up north. Most people speak Hindi, but a lot of the provinces have their own languages there. So the kind of de facto language for around the country is English.
Oh, okay.
Which makes it a lot easier as an American traveler. The level of proficiency, of course, is a wide spectrum for people that you see there. Some people you do need to use Google Translate to talk to there.
Yeah.
But Goa, for instance, it's the Tulum of India, and you got people from Russia, Israel. You got people from all over the world in Goa, and it's a yoga teacher
Resort
hotspot
area?
type
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
Noted.
So yeah, that was where I did two of them, and in English, the teacher clearly very experienced, helping push me in on my
align you.
positions. Yeah, make sure
Oh,
I'm
that's
doing
so
them
nice.
the right way.
Were they longer than normal? Like 1 hour, half an hour and a half?
I did, let's see, hour 15. I don't remember what the other one was. Yeah, fairly long.
Are
I
they-
usually do half an hour at a time. So for me, it was fairly long.
Are
But
they heated or in like a normal? Is it in indoors, outdoors?
outdoors, but like covered area,
Okay.
typically.
And it's already hot outside.
Yeah, most of India is pretty hot.
Okay, very cool. Neat. Thanks for diverting to
Oh
into my
yeah.
yoga
Oh
questions.
yeah.
So you were telling me about I'm out of brain. What? Do you have it? I'm looking at it too, but I'm going out of order. No?
No, go ahead. I have my notes. Something different.
Well, I cut you off at a point because you mentioned that you were going to yoga. Oh, your housing. That you said you just find accommodation that's simple because you're not there for a long time. But actually, when you were in India for 2 months, were you in the same place for the whole time? No.
Not a lot.
That
No.
doesn't make sense. Sorry. Now that I said it,
Yeah,
now that asked it in a
I
different
kind of worked my way from the north to the south, and I spent around 3 to 4 days in most of the places. Something that's been a bit of a mental challenge with doing this long trip without having a job is not having the sense of urgency when you wake up that you desperately need to start getting your stuff done, whether that's your emails or your coding or whatever work you do. And I think to some extent, I try to combat that by exposing some sort of artificial constraints by saying, I'm only going to stay in this city for 3 days. I usually like to book maybe 2 to 3 weeks ahead of where I'm going to be so that I have a plan, but I can change it up if I want to without sacrificing too many of the things that I've booked. Yeah.
How do you book? Like, what do you use, an app or just go online and look at places?
Yeah, booking.com's good. You'll do Airbnb sometimes, Hostel World, Agoda. There are a million different sites and the deals are always different.
Okay. I would hope you have some sort of membership with a booking site, Jon, so where you're getting like points.
Yeah. Credit card points are the most important for sure. I will say my credit card provider loses money on me with how much I'm going to the airport lounges and using my points to book additional travel.
There you go.
Yeah.
Looking like a flight for Christmas.
Oh yeah. Well, I got really lucky. I wasn't sure that I would be coming home for Christmas at first, but I managed to find a good deal, and it goes from New Delhi to Houston, and then I will return right back to New Delhi.
So you have a round trip?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'll plan to go to East Asia, Southeast Asia for first few months of next year, which will be a very different experience.
Yeah. My next question was where to next?
Well,
I guess now we know.
It. Yeah, Sri Lanka as well. Do some hiking there, and Southeast Asia afterwards. And we'll see how long I end up doing this. I mean, I said I would do 1 year of travels, and that was August to July. Yeah. Will July be enough? Who knows?
I know.
It's still a ways away. Maybe once I finish this and I'm on to the next challenge, we can come back together and talk about the next crazy adventure.
Actually,
I've always got ideas. Don't know exactly what the next one's going to be yet.
That's okay. But that's cool. You already have a set plan for 2025, at least for the first half of the year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just about.
So these marathons are self-supported, but do you have, I should know this, I feel like, but do you have a fundraiser to help support you for people that are wanting to support you? Or did you just save from, I'm going to assume you saved and then you're like, let's go travel the world?
I mean, if anyone wants to Venmo me,
I mean, seriously, like how is it working? How is it feasible for you?
I'm, as I said, lucky that I have roommates that are helping cover my house. Mm-hmm. I really looked closely at all of my recurring expenses before I left on this trip, canceled Netflix, things like that.
Yeah.
And I did save up a lot of money before this. I've always been fairly responsible, lived beneath my means. And I mean, the stock market could plummet in the next month. That would be a little bit stressful. But even if so, I've got enough of a little cushion built up that I don't need money for myself desperately. I met someone on the trip and bought them something worth maybe $18, $20, and they were going to try to figure out how to pay me back, like foreign bank account. And I said, just donate to my fundraiser.
Yeah.
That means more to me than getting my $20 back.
Right.
And she did. So
nice.
Good to spread the word that way.
Okay. Very nice. Yeah. I knew some people would be curious, so I figured I'd ask. Not before we conclude, we are ending we are nearing the end of the podcast. Is there anything that I missed or something that you'd like to share?
I think maybe talking about some of the challenges that I've faced along the way would be helpful.
Yeah, you mentioned solitude.
Did
you want to touch on that?
Yeah, maybe health issues a little bit too. I mean, I've been, as I said, knock on wood, very lucky how things have gone. Food poisoning was Setback, of course.
Yeah.
I got my fair share of colds, if I wasn't sleeping well, or I did do a hike in Nepal where you go way up to a mountain pass, 16,000 feet, 5,000 meters, give or take. And then coming down after that, we went all the way down 12,000 feet or so in 2 days. And I looked down at the end and my socks just had these huge holes in them. And my knees were not doing well the next few days. I was like carrying my suitcase up the stairs and just really struggling with it.
And really going through it. Actually.
Yeah. And of course you go from that high of altitude, like 20 degrees to temperate rainforest. It's a little bit of a challenge for your sinuses as well. Yeah. So that one was tough.
How do you cope with that? Do you carry medicines with you, or do you just yes?
Yeah. I mean, I got enough basics to get me through. And when I got the food poisoning, I was taking my own medicine at first, but probably a little bit more stubborn than I needed to be, thinking it would work, and I didn't have to spend the $5 that I spent at the pharmacy there. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, health issues. That was, really it. I wanted to actually get started on this project in April or May when I went to Africa. I thought that could be the beginning of marathons around the world. Mm-hmm. And at the end of April, I had just such a challenge with my hip flexor that I had to stop running for really almost a month. Wow. And it lasted from my end of my time here to the middle of my time there, give or take. And I just thought that it wasn't meant to be, that I can still do this Marathons Around the World project. I'll just be starting it a little bit later than I had originally intended. But yeah, to talk about solitude, I won't lie. It's a challenge, and you're not always staying in hostels where it's lively. Sometimes you need a break from that, and it's worth getting a private room every few days just so that you can be fully on your own schedule and sleep whenever you want to sleep. But I think it's important to just be vulnerable with strangers. You never know when you're going to meet a world traveler who has some very interesting perspective to share. And I've found that if you're willing to bring your own challenges to the table, then it's likely that someone else is going to be able to do it as well. And so you meet enough world travelers that speak English, obviously. And my Spanish is good enough that if I met someone from Latin America, I would give it my all to have a conversation with them in their mother tongue, which I know they don't get to speak a lot when they're in India or Nepal or something like that.
Fair.
Of course, the social media aspect is a blessing and a curse. I would say more so a blessing for this sort of thing, because I've got cool stories to share most of the time, and you never know when someone's gonna say that, I've been to this place, this is really cool, or something like that. I've been really, really grateful to have had such a positive reception of this. I've gotten messages from people who I haven't talked to in 10 years, right? People I haven't seen since college or high school, that maybe we view each other's stuff on social media, but anytime I've gotten an unsolicited message of, wow, I think what you're doing is really cool. It doesn't even matter if they donate or not, like, because that means that I'm getting my goals, my mission out there to the people, and it's being seen. So
it is a beautiful thing what you're doing. I know that, I think you do know, and I can tell in the words that you speak, but it's nice to kind of sit and just, congratulate yourself. And because people do notice, I notice, I'm glad that I can have you on to raise more awareness, and we can clip some videos so that people can see more about what you're doing. And I think that the website you created is just a great idea for people to stay updated as well. Even for those who don't want to, stay connected via social media, but you have a website that people can look at. And how often do you update it?
Well, I have a counter there of how many marathons I've run. So if nothing else, I'm
we know where you are.
Yeah, still showing the progress there. I said I'm publishing a video for every marathon. So I'm doing like this, taking my wide angle selfie. You get to see me running, get to see the sights I'm seeing.
Where are you posting videos? TikTok?
Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
How's the TikTok going?
Not bad. They get thousands of views. So
Nice.
yeah, not gone viral yet, but
Yet.
we'll see. It was interesting. India completely banned TikTok. Like
Wow.
you can barely even open the app. You open it and it says app
Flag.
isn't supported in this region.
Okay,
And
yeah.
so I'm behind now. I got like 6 or 7, I guess 6 India videos that I'm
Cool.
gonna just gradually go through the backlog on TikTok. But
Exciting.
you already saw them probably on
I did see
Instagram.
some, yeah. But it's so sweet. It's very neat. I personally love traveling, and I have not been to that end of the world, but I hope to someday. And then I can ask you where you've been and ask for recommendations. I don't think I'll be running marathons there, but
You never know. You never know.
I do never know, but I am pretty certain.
Yeah, I may still find a race at some point. I know one thing I haven't done a lot of is getting fully immersed in running culture of a city. It's not everywhere, right? But you know how many run clubs there are around Houston.
Yeah.
A lot of the bigger cities, more developed cities, capital cities in countries, there's something like that. And I've messaged several. It's hard to get as clear of information about exactly when and where the clubs are meeting. But that's something I'm hoping to do a little bit more of next year as I'm continuing this challenge. Don't want them to run a full marathon with me. Not
Yeah.
gonna ask for that. But
just run at least
because I
with
still
groups.
do plenty of running other than these marathons. I need to not let my training completely drop off
Yeah.
before the next one 2 weeks later.
And right now you are currently training, I would assume.
You could say that. Yeah.
You're like, I'm running 10 miles. Did you
Oh,
run
yeah.
today?
I did my exercise bike today. That's a luxury I have at home that I haven't done in a while, is a stationary bike.
Yes.
But
So
it's
nice.
such a pleasure to be back on the running trails of Houston, especially in India. It's a chaotic place. You got motorcycles cutting the drivers off, and
Yeah.
you don't always have sidewalk. There's challenges with the air quality there. So it's a pleasure to be back. It's always great when I can find a good running trail in one of these foreign countries. It's usually there's at least one good park in a city where you can do a bunch of laps. An interesting feature that the Strava app has, when you're going on the map, you can kind of see a heat map that shows where other people have logged their activities in the past.
Oh.
So if you're in a place that's maybe a park, but it's not marked on Google Maps, then that's been a way that I've
That's nice.
kind of found the
The routes.
routes that I'm
yeah.
interested in. Yeah.
Oh,
There was a point where,
Shout out to Strava.
well, there was a point early on where Strava got in a lot of trouble because,
Oh.
you know, like military people were logging activities in military bases. So you'd see like,
You're like,
this
let me
is
go
where
for a
the
run here,
American
wait.
base is in Libya,
That's crazy.
or like Secret Service are running. It's you realize that's for the hotel where the president's staying. You know, things that
wow.
privacy issues that really should not. The people in the army or the Secret Service are the ones that shouldn't be posting that stuff. But I think it's mostly been curtailed. I think it's mostly been solved now. But yeah,
Oops.
good and bad. Good
Yeah,
and bad. For
good.
me, it's great.
Yeah. Now you know. I would say, what are some of the pros about coming home? Because I've not traveled as much as you had, but I've been out of the country and come back, and there's always pros and cons, obviously. But what are some of the things that you miss about home, or not maybe took for granted, but something that you recognize as a luxury?
Having more than 7-8 shirts to choose from.
There you go.
I met people who traveled a lot lighter than me,
Wow.
but I just traveled with a backpack and carry-on size suitcase, just to make things logistically easier. You save money by not checking a bag on a flight, but that certainly limits you. And I had to have some cold weather stuff for Nepal, so I'm gonna drop that off this time around, not bring it back again. Total wardrobe change. Gonna
Okay.
be super nice for when I continue on. Of course, most important thing is seeing people, seeing my family, seeing my friends. I'm expecting my social batteries to just be completely depleted.
Yeah.
But I've got a few days where I'm not gonna be doing anything while I'm here. One other thing that came to mind is just cleanliness, you know, showers that are always hot, washers and dryers. I could have paid more money and done laundry service in India, but I brought detergent. So it was
was about to
usually
say,
just clothes in a bucket, detergent, mix it around, mix in some clean water, put it on a drying rack.
Yep.
Clothes smelled kind of bad at the end though.
I thought I smelled something. Just kidding. Jokes aside. Anything else?
Anything else? I don't think so. I feel like we covered most of my favorite things. Trying to find a routine amid the chaos is a bit difficult as well. But I've got a few things that I kind of look forward to day over day or week over week. Certain daily word games, number games that I play. Certain YouTube creators that I follow post every week on a certain day of the week,
Nice.
Gaming, esports things that I'll tune into. I post a haiku every Sunday, which today's Sunday. I need to brainstorm one. I've been doing that really since I started this trip. What else do I do? I wish a friend happy Taco Tuesday every Tuesday. One of my old coworkers.
Every Tuesday.
Every Taco Tuesday, we say happy Taco Tuesday. And so we'll have a little conversation there. Anytime I get to hear from somebody, I don't really I have a sort of recurring call with my family, my parents, right? But not so much other friends. So anytime I get a hold of somebody, and it's especially difficult when you're on the complete other end of the world, and it's my night and their morning. But anytime I get a hold of somebody, it's always really nice as well.
I have a question. It's kind of on topic, but what would you do if you were still... Welcome to Houston. That's a car. What would you do if you lost your phone or did not have a phone while you were still trying to accomplish your goal?
It would be pretty difficult. You'll find mobile replacement and mobile repair shops just about everywhere. And you can use what's called an eSIM, where you get data plans in a foreign country, pay by the gigabyte, things like that. It would, I think, more just be a bunch of logistical hoops to jump through. I mean, losing phone and wallet would be difficult. Passport, of course, you can get replaced if you can get to an embassy. It might totally screw with my plans if I'm lose it the day before I leave a country or something like that. But as long as you have your credit cards or your phone, usually you can get by pretty effectively. Funny story about credit cards. I had a fraudulent charge on my credit card, like $100, nothing crazy, but they asked to cancel
and you had to send
credit
it to
card. Well, I went back to New York briefly. I don't think I mentioned that yet. I went to New York for 10 days in September for a wedding. So I said, all right, you can send my replacement card to New York to my friend's apartment that I'll be staying at. And the first friend's landlord threw it out because it was to a name that wasn't on the lease.
Gosh.
So I get there and there was nothing there. But I was still there for long enough where I had them send it to a different friend's place that I knew wouldn't have have a landlord checking to toss it out.
What are the odds?
I was without a credit card for a bit, but this was in Kazakhstan and they had Tap Pay.
Really?
Tap Pay pretty widely adopted there. So that was fortunate.
Wow. Yeah, so you just run into a few bumps in the road, but...
Nothing too terrible. Nothing, again, knock on wood, but I take calculated risks, right? At this point, a marathon is a calculated risk that pretty low likelihood of error, and especially when we're living in a time where we got rideshare apps. If I change my route a little bit during the run because I found a lake or a trail that I like, and I don't finish 26.2 after or exactly where I started. If I'm on the complete other side of town, I can pay for a Uber or a tuk-tuk or whatever to take me back to my place. That's a added level of comfort that we have now uniquely in the 21st century, I suppose.
Yeah. I have another question just came to mind. Do you or have you traded gifts or I guess souvenirs with anyone that you've met?
Traded souvenirs. I should do more of that. So mostly what I'll save is my boarding passes, currency, and programs from museums or pay stubs for any sort of things like that. I've built little collages on poster board with previous trip souvenir mementos. So yeah, I did that with a few of my coworkers in the past, but I guess it's hard to decide if you want to do that with someone you meet that you only know for a few hours or days. But
my marketing brain is wondering if maybe some nice person gifts Jon some stickers. I don't know, stickers or like a
could be
coin
good.
or some sort of
Yeah.
small item, obviously, that you could trade or just give to pass around, because you can, maybe it even has your website on it or a link to something. I don't know. No, like QR codes or things like that.
Yeah, I don't want to push my
but
agenda too much.
maybe you could put like I don't know, this is me brainstorming for you, like a quote or something that represents you, and then just kind of like put it there. So you're in every corner that you've been to.
I like the idea. Yeah, I like the idea. I'll do a bit of brainstorming on that one over the next few weeks. Maybe I'll have something to take with me when I fly out.
Yeah, or maybe next time.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be something else. I think that, as I said, I'll probably finish the running the marathons around the world challenge, 25 in a year, with a bit of time to spare. So part of me wants to make the final leg of this gap year be kind of what my original vision was with traveling the world, which is to do a long distance hike, something that you're just living out of a backpack and you don't have, all you have is the food on you, the tent on you. Maybe you stay in a hotel every 7 days or something. But something that you just won't have the time to do while you're working a full-time job.
Yeah, really take advantage of it. And
20 days of PTO a year is not enough to do a month-long hiking trip, right? You got other life commitments. So I'm right now thinking that sort of thing. I don't know if it's in the US or outside, Europe, Canada, it could be anywhere. That's back in my mind. I'm kind of always envisioning what's happening in a week, what's happening in a month, what's happening in 6 months, like to varying degrees of severity, seriousness, right? So we'll see. Time will tell on that one.
Okay, time will tell, and we'll be here to recap whatever it is that you do.
I'm looking forward to it already.
Oh. Well, if that's all that you have for us today, the way that we end or conclude the show is by you either saying something, giving a shout out, or if maybe there's one final note. Or too bad you didn't prepare a haiku for today, but
I messed up.
Can you do it on the spot?
Oh,
I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. But the floor is yours, is what I'm saying for the final note.
And you said you'll air this after Christmas, before New Year's, 26th?
Thursday.
Yeah.
You'll be the last episode of 2024.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone.
There you go.
This is the time to be making your plans for 2025. So hopefully I got your creative juices flowing a little bit. As I think I mentioned in the last episode, running is a very great dynamic way to challenge yourself. It doesn't have to be a marathon. It doesn't have to be going to run club this many times a year. It can be completely customized to what you think is right for yourself. And just go out of your comfort zone. I think really one of the things that made me embrace the long-term solo travel life is learning to be comfortable being outside of my comfort zone. And it's tough sometimes, and you're gonna have a bad time sometimes.
But you grow so much.
But when you have a good time, it's just that much better. And when you get to have a genuine conversation with someone who has a completely different perspective or world experience or worldview than you, and it's something you learn from, then it really goes a long way.
Yeah, it's very beautiful to be able to take from one another, and then you ultimately form your own perspective view. But it's so nice that you've been able to have these experiences. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today, share your inspirational words and your story. And I'm really excited to see what you do next. I wish you the best of luck in 2025. I almost said 2026. That's crazy. We wish you the best of luck. We'll be following you. We'll tag your links and help promote your cause.
Yeah, go donate to Free to Run.
Yeah, definitely. I'll link it. We'll post it. And thank you again, Jon, so much for your time, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Siobhan.
Thank you, everyone. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.